I've been living in this space for a while. Dealers are making 3 to 4K front end gross, and then another 1,500 back end. They can go 5K total gross on these vehicles. And so that's why they should care, because there is money to be made. I know dealers that are VW dealers, and they're running them as just like fronts for used EVs. Like, they're selling a few VWs and they're selling 60 Teslas a month.
It kind of seems like what I'm hearing, if I'm listening between the lines, is like used EV market is something that we really need to be paying attention to.
100%. So
one of the things that I enjoy most about producing the Dealer Playbook is hearing from you. The messages that I get of people who are getting so much value out of the podcast, applying it to their day-to-day workflows and finding a thriving career right here in the retail auto industry. It means the world to me. And, you know, one of the ways that we make doing this possible is through my agency, Flex Dealer. And of course, in the spirit of providing value, I think this is a perfect time to head over to www.flexdealer.com to show even further support for you, my beloved DPB gang. Right now, if you go to my website, flexdealer.com, you can get a full free PDF of my #1 best-selling book, Don't Wait, Dominate. And the reason I think it's so special is that a lot of the topics that are discussed in this book are even more relevant today than ever with this surge in popularized AI and people wondering, well, what can I do next? How can I have a competitive advantage? Well, that's all here in this book. And so I'd love to be able to offer you a free copy of this. If you go to flexdealer.com, it would mean the world to me, because that is how we continue to produce this show for you. Here we are. We got to see each other for about 12 and a half seconds at a SoduCon. So I'm so happy every time I get to see you and get to hang out with you. Welcome back to the Dealer Playbook.
thank you, Michael. Is it Mike or Michael?
It's whatever.
Some people, they care. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. It's great to be back. And we had a great time at a SoduCon. It's a banger conference. So everyone should go if they don't already go. What's wrong with you?
It's a lot of fun. You got me all of a sudden thinking, here's a little bit of Canadiana for our audience. This is where they all exit. You said Mike, you asked me Mike or Michael, and I immediately thought Mike from Canmore. Royal Canadian Air Farce was a TV show, big in the 90s, and they had a character, Mike from Canmore. And I'm going way back on that one. I don't know. People are going to look it up. You should look it up. I thought it was funnier than SNL.
They should look up Canmore. Canmore's beautiful.
Canmore's beautiful. Old stomping grounds. I want to get into this with you. I've got a bunch of questions. So, and I'll kick it off this way. I was recently at a dealership, a Chevy store, and he had a lineup of EVs that he lamented. I cannot sell these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what? You kind of put a pin in things. You're like, when and if I ever get a chance to talk to somebody who is living, breathing, eating, thinking, learning, building around EVs, I'm going to ask this question. Dealers have EVs sitting on their lots right now, 90 plus days. They don't know what to do with them, but I'm really curious from an operational perspective, from your vantage point, what are some of the costs that are just eating away at that dealer that he may not even be aware of from those things sitting on his lot?
Oh, well, one thing is just opportunity cost. You've got space taken up on your lot. Forget about floor plan and those sorts of things, but it's taking up space on your lot. It's taking up mind share for your team. If your team is not trained on them, there's morale and soul costs, let's say,
right?
Where, they've got these things, they're not trained on how to sell them. They're not bought in on them. And so there's, an energy drain on them anytime some customer, asks about them or whatever. So I think that there's other things also, if you don't have, a plan for F&I or service retention, when you sell those, you're basically going to lose that customer for life. And you might have low CSI scores on those deals also because the customer knew more than you, which is something we hear often, like shoppers know more than us about EVs. And,
right.
And we're like, well, that's bad. That's not a That's not
Not a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. So there's all these things. I mean, like from where we sit at Lyteflo, the reason we started the company was, and by the way, we provide EV sales and merchandising tools for dealerships and EV battery health reports. And the reason we did this is because we could see that the industry was built for gas vehicles. The websites are built for gas vehicles. Training is built for gas vehicles. Marketing is built for gas vehicles. And now there's plug-in hybrids, there's EVs, and soon to be extended range EVs. I bet most dealers won't even know what extended range EVs are. And bringing in those electrified vehicles now breaks all the rails of your website and marketing and appraisal and service retention. And it's created big challenges for dealers.
I love that you bring in the human element right away, because it's an increasing conversation, right? I often think, hey, if our teams are better equipped to answer questions appropriately, morale goes up. Well, what's the opportunity of morale going up? Well, they're gonna feel more confident. They're gonna take a harder swing at the ball, and they're gonna have a greater chance to knock them out of the park. And the more often they do that, morale goes up again. They follow process. They want to show up to work. Years ago, when I interviewed Cardone for the first time, he's like, you know why salespeople hate their jobs? I said, why? He's like, because they suck at it. And typically anything we suck at, we hate. He's like, but then you see salespeople that love their jobs, and it's because they are the most equipped. They're well trained. They know how to, do all those sorts of things. You brought up the customer thing, and I want to segue into that for a minute. Customer goes on a test drive. What are you guys seeing being in the information space? What are you seeing as kind of some of maybe those common questions they're asking that dealership teams are kind of fumbling over, right?
Sure. Yeah, first of all, I love the Cardone thing. That's awesome. Like just saying, they don't like something because they suck at it is so true. When you get good, I mean, you're getting dopamine, right? When you figure out
Right.
you play guitar, right? I know that. Like you figure out some new pattern or whatever, you absolutely you get like a warm feeling over your whole body because you just figured something.
Makes you want to do it more.
Yeah. You just won. You just succeeded at something.
Right.
So back to your question, test drive's interesting. So the test drive for a gas vehicle hasn't changed in a long time. And the test drive for an EV is much different than a test drive from a gas vehicle. This is like brand new technology. It's a computer on wheels. It's like if you had a BlackBerry and then you're now like, oh, check out this iPhone. Well, would you give it to them and be like, yeah, here's like the tactile, you type on a regular keyboard, and you have to show them how you swipe and how you have gestures and all these things. It's like fundamentally different. So I'll give you a few examples. So one, you're going to want to show how you can plan a trick in the EV. That is a thing that you don't have to do in gas vehicles. Yes, you might use Waze or whatever, but if you're planning a trip, maybe a 4-hour trip, you might have a charging stop. And so you're going to want to show how, hey, the car, depending on the car, and this can be different between cars, is how it identifies where you need to stop, the best place to stop. Maybe you're talking about how it's going to preheat the battery to make it fast for you when you charge and stuff around that. Another thing you're going to want to talk about is regenerative braking, right? A lot of people not familiar with, or also known as single pedal driving, right? And a lot of people, and probably many dealers, don't even know that single pedal driving can be turned on, can be turned off, and also has settings in between. So you can, and in some cases, so you can have levels of single pedal driving. And for those that don't know, single pedal driving essentially applies the motor slows itself down, so you don't have to use brakes. Now, some people find that jarring and can jerk you if you're not comfortable with it, but it can extend your range. And so that's something to show on a test drive. And then the other thing you want to do is demonstrate charging. Maybe this person's never charged before. Why don't you go to a public charger that is around the dealership, or maybe you have one at the dealership, and show how you plug it in and show how it charges and show how, hey, it's like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes for you to get a nice charge up to 80%. Typically you can grab some food or hit the bathroom or whatever it is and talk about those things. So a few other things that people are asking when they're interested. So if it's a used EV, more and more customers are asking about battery health because batteries degrade, and consumers are getting more educated about that.
Right.
So I think we're quickly going to see, we have cases where we've seen where customers won't buy a car without they're requiring a battery health from the dealer. And then they're like, yeah, I'm good to buy the car. I'm good with the payment. I just need to see a battery certificate or a battery report.
Right.
So that's one. Where are chargers around me? How much am I saving? Some people are savings. Fuel savings is like a big deal for some customers, especially right now with the Strait of Hormuz, which has become, a top of mind.
Topic.
Yeah, big topic. People didn't even know what the Strait of Hormuz was, including myself. And now we'll know the name for the rest of our lives. So they're asking about fuel savings, maintenance savings, those things.
I think it's so interesting. My wife and I, everything you're talking about, I'm thinking about my own experience with an EV. We had a Model 3 for a little over a year, and had somebody actually gone through those things. Now, I get it. I'm no victim. I could have, if I really knew what to, I could have figured these things out. But it's weird though, like being somebody who researches so much pre-buying, it's weird that I didn't do enough. I felt like I didn't do enough research. And the whole Tesla model in particular was to streamline how quickly you get the vehicle and drive away. Mm-hmm. And so how to map things, and that you can drive this thing right until 0 miles and it will give you these are things I did not know about. And range anxiety in particular was something that I struggled with, which was so annoying to me that I was even struggling with this. Cause I could get into my car right now and see that it's only got 19 miles of gas left and will feel no measure of anxiety.
You'll find a gas station.
Right. Had I known these things, I probably would not have traded out of that vehicle. My wife would still be driving it. She still talks about how much she loved the driving experience of that vehicle.
Why'd you switch?
All of these things combined, plus, we live, I don't want to say we live in a rural area, but we're in the growth path, right, in DFW. And so at the time when we were driving it, she was putting 100 miles on this thing before 9 a.m., right? Getting the kids to school, which was 11 miles away. Then she'd drive to her work, which was 20 miles from there. And then by the time she gets home, and I look at it, I'm like, she's doing 100 miles. So a year into this thing, I swipe and I look at the mileage, and it was like 32,000 miles in a year. And I was like, holy crap.
Imagine how much you're saving in gas.
I know, dude. I know all the things that I regret. I wish I would have been more educated. And I think, and I'm kind of an edge case in the way I typically live my life, but in the EV thing, I think I'm right in the middle of some of the things that customers, kind of the typical customer, doesn't know that they don't know, and are making decisions based off of that, I'm going to say, ignorance. And so many of those things have been dispelled now. Mm-hmm. Had somebody shown me, oh no, like here's how you map a trip, and it's actually a better mapping of a trip. You map a trip on Waze, bro. You don't know what gas station you're pulling into and what side of town. And
yeah.
And so
you have a home charger?
We have a home charger. Yeah. So that it was, yeah. So there were all sorts of things that I kind of regret. My personal, I'm not calling anybody stupid. I'm calling myself, I think, my level of stupidity around it. But those were all real things. And it brings validity, I think, to your point, which is, well, if that information is readily accessible, not just to customer, but to the person selling the vehicle, the whole infrastructure of this relationship changes. You brought up fixed, and I want to touch on that. Because everything is still built around gas, to your point. We talk about the oil change, but like there's an avenue here where you brought up battery checks. I mean, that's like another thing, right? What's your vantage point on that?
Yeah, for sure. So at a high level, obviously EVs don't need oil changes. And I often say the oil change was the best invention in the history of customer retention. It was like you have to come back to get this thing serviced every 6 months or 3 months, whatever, depending on how much you drive. And that drove so much business and an engine for the dealerships around raising cars and switching and pull aheads, lease pull aheads, and acquiring a vehicle, which allows you to sell a new vehicle to that customer, and then also take that acquired vehicle and sell that. So you're making a lot of money on those things. I'm bringing the customer back, and that's going away. So we still have a few things. We have tires and some coolants and stuff like that. But even brakes are less on EVs because of the regenerative braking. So with battery checks, we believe that will be a key retention tool for dealerships. And whether they're charging for it or not, it's a way to bring the customer back in. So some dealers will use it as a loyalty tool, as a why buy. It's like, hey, whenever you buy an EV from us, you get a free battery health report, free battery health check every year. Come back in, it's free. So some dealers will do that, and some dealers will use it as a RO line item where they'll charge for battery health reports. We're already seeing and we expect there to be a substantial market in the after sale, in the independent service shops offering battery reports. We're already seeing it show up where independent service shops are offering for $69, $79, $89 a battery report, a battery certificate, a battery health check using tools like Lyteflo or others. And that's, customers are wanting those on like pre-purchase inspections. Let's say they're buying an EV and they want to get that battery checked out. They may take it to their independent service shop, to do that. So I believe that we're seeing dealers this already show up in the service lane. And if you're in for tires, like by the way, we can, check your battery, make sure the cell voltages are good, make sure there's no issues with cell health, as well as give you a independent assessment of degradation on the battery. And we're seeing that show up as a use case as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing this as a big opportunity. I know you guys are leaning into that space as well. For the dealer that's like, oh, that's a good idea. I should be the first dealer in my market to offer battery checks. Mm-hmm. What do they need infrastructure wise? Is there new equipment they need? Like, is it a heavy install? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'd say firstly, there is an opportunity for dealers right now and there will be, I think it'll exist for the next 12 to 24 months, where not a lot of dealers are offering transparency around battery health. And particularly in the used EV market right now is having a huge moment where the price of one of the issues with EVs, one of the issues that has been an obstacle to adoption is the price of EVs. So in the new market, new vehicles, they're about 10 grand more than a equivalent gas vehicle. So if you have a Equinox EV and a Equinox gas, they'll be, call it roughly 10K apart. In the used market, they're about equal. There I am. In the used market, it's come down. So they're about equal. At the point where I can I can get a Tesla Model 3 for the same price as a Camry. Literally just was on a call with a dealer this morning. Big used dealer who is doing a lot of EVs. And they were like, most of the Teslas we see or sell, customers coming in for a Camry, and they see they can get a Model 3 for the same price. And so they go Model 3. And so back to your question, that's why dealers should kind of care about the battery reports. There'll be this window where you can be the only dealer that's offering a battery health report to customers, whether it's in service or in sales. And to answer your question, so primarily we're using the OBD port to read data from the battery management system. Mm-hmm. So you take one of these guys, everyone's familiar with an OBD dongle, I guess they call it, or device. Yeah. Uh-huh. But you plug this guy into the OBD port on an EV, and within 2 minutes, it's reading the data from the battery, cell health, voltages of the individual cells, as well as degradation. So showing it's a 95% or 90%, showing what the actual range of the vehicle is. And within 2 minutes, you've got a full, beautiful report that you can print, you can give it to the customer, it'll post to your website, you can email it on lead follow-up and use it as a key merchandising piece for those EVs.
Wow. Okay, I've got one more question as we wind down here. You brought up used EVs. Obviously, we know we've gone through these weird roller coasters of like, we're all in on EVs. Oh, actually, we're not. And so I think about that from a franchise perspective. do I need the new lineup? I don't care if I get allocation, or maybe I do. It kind of seems like what I'm hearing, if I'm listening between the lines, is like used EV market is something that we really need to be paying attention to.
100%. So firstly, what I say to dealers is, look, you shouldn't do this if you're not all in on it. Like, unless you want to, because you can't just dabble, right? You got to train your team. You need to figure out how to acquire these things. You need to understand how to appraise them. You need to be comfortable with taking some risk in order to open up a new line of business for your shop. So firstly, you got to be fully bought in. Secondly, the used EV market is set to grow very different from the new market. It's like they're not the same thing, right? The new market, you're getting force-fed allocation. Right. Some of those vehicles were just not compelling vehicles at compelling prices, not a compelling value prop, I should say. A Hummer is a very cool vehicle at a certain price point, right?
Sure.
Maybe $70K.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what that price point is, but not at $110K or whatever it is, right? So it has to be the right product at the right price point. And the thing so it's set to grow 26% per year. We're going to have, that's a combination of things. One is we're going to have 1.1 million EVs coming off lease over the next 3 years. And so there's going to be a lot of lease coming back. The finance companies who held them at too high residuals are going to, and now the vehicles aren't going to be priced at where the residuals were at. Someone's going to be holding that bag, but it's not going to be the consumer. And so what's going to happen is the consumer's now getting a really compelling product at a really compelling price, because we're enabled, the product can now hit the market equilibrium of where the price should be. And so off lease volume combined with that pricing parity and pricing being in a good spot. And then the final point around why they should care is because gross is very good on these cars. So I know I've been living in this space for a while. Dealers are making 3 to 4K front end gross, and then another 1,500 back end. They can go 5K total gross on these vehicles. And so that's why they should care, because there is money to be made. I know dealers that are VW dealers, and they're running them as just like fronts for used EVs. Like, they're selling a few VWs and they're selling 60 Teslas a month, so they're selling more used Teslas than they are new cars at their franchise.
What a wild time.
It's crazy. And you've gone from, and so this opportunity will be around for another 12 to 24 months for dealers that are motivated and adventurous.
What I selfishly heard is there's a second chance for me in the next couple of years to get back in. Okay. As we wind down, one last question. How can those listening and watching connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. Go to lyteflo.com. You can fill out a form, but I think the best thing to do is connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to chat EVs, or reach out at ryan@lyteflo.com.
Ryan, my pal, the CEO of Lyteflo. You got to check him out. Thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.